All right, let's call this work session back to order. Any other business come before the council for the work session? If not, have a motion to adjourn the work session.
So moved.
All right, let's call our regular meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Kurt Smith.
Here.
Gustafson. Here. Perry.
Here.
J.R. Smith.
Here.
Brabner. Here. Mayor.
I'm here. Our invocation and pledge will be led by our city clerk, Becky Gaines. If you please rise.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the privilege of coming out tonight to do the city's business. We ask you to bless the citizens. We ask you to bless this council as they attempt to do their best to govern this city. We ask you to bless our first responders and protect them as they go about their duties, and our public works and all of our employees. We thank you for the beautiful spring weather we're having, and we thank you for being allowed to live in this country. In thy name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ms. Gaines. Ask for the approval of the minutes of the previous meeting, work session February 20, 2023, and the regular meeting February 20, 2023. Are there any corrections? Hearing none, they stand approved. Committee reports, Ms. Gaines.
No report, sir.
Mr. Connor.
And no further reports from the work session.
Chief Barber. Chief Few.
Just want to remind you all and announce to everyone that the fire department board meeting is tomorrow at 6 p.m. at the fire station. It's our annual meeting for the community.
Thank you, Chief. Ms. Tucker? No report. Casey, you have anything? Okay. I do want to recognize our AD and head football coach, Chase Smith, is here tonight. Thank you, Coach, for coming out. Did I miss anybody else? Okay. Public participation. Now is your chance to address to the City Council your thoughts, concerns. The podium is now open. If you please come forward and give us your name and address. If you push that speak button there.
Terry Vincent, 301 Spanish Main. I got a question. What is this particular segment called where I'm speaking now?
I'm sorry, sir.
What is this segment called where I'm speaking?
Public participation.
Why is it at the start of the meetings and not at the end? The question I have is I came out of here the last public meeting, 2 weeks ago, so confused about the pickleball court. Yeah, it's funny, $250,000. Mr. Connors said they're going to spend $80,000 on a company to acquire the property and do all the paperwork and do the design and all that. And then you said it was going to cost $200,000 to construct it. So is it $280,000 or is it $200,000? That's the reason why I ask. Why do you have these sessions at the start of the meeting instead of at the end where I don't have to walk out here confused? So what is the cost of the pickleball court? $280,000?
The engineering company is $80,000 to design, do all the work that goes with that. To build 6 pickleball courts is going to cost you $700,000.
Well, you said $200,000.
I don't think so. Maybe I did by mistake, but I think the cost is $700,000 is what we put into the numbers.
To answer, Mayor, if I may, to answer your question, I mean, I guess you can make an argument both ways. The city has always chosen to have the public participation first because that gives the public time to ask questions about agenda items before they come up. For example, you sit to see the agenda, so you get to ask questions. Hey, I see that this item is coming up. I have some questions about that, and you get your questions answered before they actually pass it. Some cities do the public participation at the end, and then the complaint is, well, you've already passed the resolution before I got a chance to speak. So Spanish Fort has always tried to do public participation first, so that if people had a question before the resolution or ordinance was passed, they would have a chance to answer that. So I mean, you can be both ways, but that's why they do it, but so that it gives everybody a chance to talk first. Second is we have the work session that is at 4:30 before the 6 o'clock meeting, and that's an opportunity for anybody that can come, and some people can't because of work, to come and ask questions at the work session as well. In addition to that, the items related to the pickleball court and the property is, there's several items related to that. One is the property owner, the developers at the Spanish Fort Town Center have agreed to donate that land, and so that's a cost that's there. And then the mayor's correct. The engineering numbers that were provided at the work session later were in the $700,000 range. And then the engineering design contract is around the $70,000 range, because it not only involves the construction of the pickleball courts, we have to have separation of utilities. There's some other improvements that are going to be constructed as well. But I hope that answers your question. But that's the reason that the public participation goes first, is to give the city a chance, give the citizens a chance to ask questions before the resolution is actually passed.
But we still leave here in confusion because of the fact that resolutions and amendments and passages and voting comes up before we can, after we've spoken, and then something doesn't stand right with us, we go, well, when do we have a chance to talk about it? We have to wait until the next city council meeting? For instance, back in December, Ms. Bradner, you guys came up with a vote for an irrigation project on Highway 31. Ms. Bradner was aghast that it even came up for a vote because no one read the contract. $225,000. She voted no. Everybody else voted yes. Guess what? It passed. Little confusion there. Didn't even read the contract of a $250,000 project. I thought the mayor was going to have a stroke when me and another gentleman here applauded Ms. Bradner for speaking up for the citizens of Spanish Fort. That's why I'm confused about why this citizens' participation comes at the start of the city council meeting in lieu of coming at the end of it, to where you could clear up the confusion.
I certainly think that it's up to the city council, and they can consider having a second public participation portion. But the answer to your question was, why is it done that way?
Right.
The idea was that it gave the city, I always thought it gave the citizens more opportunity to participate and give a chance to participate in the discussion, as opposed to at the end when the action would have already been taken. So clearly that's a discussion they can have if they want to have two sections of public participation. I mean, that's perfectly within their authority to do that.
Sure wouldn't clear up the swamp. Another question I have, I'd like to get an update on what the city of Spanish Fort is doing about the speeding problem on Spanish Main. What is the latest update on that issue?
It's being monitored weekly, daily by our police department, sir. If we put up stop signs to slow people down, you can't help what some people do speeding up and down the road, but I can assure you our police are out there every day slowing people down.
I see them every day.
Okay.
And as soon as they're gone, they're hauling through the neighborhood
I can't
again.
help what some people do when they do that, but our guys are out there every day trying to slow them down.
I have no complaints about Chief Barber. He's doing all he can. He's increased the patrols in the area. God bless him for that. But he walks a fine line of upholding the law of the states of Alabama and keeping the city council happy. I would hate to have his job. But he's doing the best he can with what he has to work with. We know he can't post a squad on Spanish Main 24/7. That's just doesn't make sense.
You make it
And
sound like
excuse
there's
me,
a
Your Honor, I
conflict.
have the deck.
No, you make it sound like there's a conflict between our police department and the city
I
council.
do
There
not.
certainly
I do
is
not.
He's got every resource in the world to do his
I
job.
just
to slow
appreciate
people
the
down.
place that he's in.
And he does an outstanding job.
And I agree with you. I'm just telling you that the addressment of the speeding on Spanish Fort, the chief has done every ounce of what he can do with what he has to work with. I have no complaints against Chief Barber, none whatsoever. He's doing a fine job. Every now and then I see a radar car down at the end of Spanish Main, or on Spanish Main. That's great. And then everybody starts flashing their lights at everybody, warning that the radar car's there. And then he gets bored, and he knows the jig's up, and he has to move on to bigger and better things. I understand that. I've been coming up here for over 16 years, trying to get the city to do something about the speeding on Spanish Main. The only person that even addresses the issue is Ms. Bradner. I went to the city engineers and asked them how many residents are in Spanish Fort Estates. They told me between 650 and 750 residents are in Spanish Fort Estates. That's 1,000. Let's lowball it. They weren't even sure. Let's lowball it and make it 500 Spanish Fort Estate. That's 500 cars, 1,000 cars a day that hit Spanish Main. 1,000 cars, that's lowball. 1,000 cars hit Spanish Main a day. In a 24-hour period, that's a car every minute and a half. In a 10-hour workday, that's a car every 45 seconds on Spanish Main. Chief Barber can't have a squad car down there 24/7. He can't have radar down there 24/7. When you were a city councilman, you came to my house. You sat in my carport. You acknowledged there was a problem on Spanish Main. The next day, you went and got a radar wagon from someplace, or another organization, and sat it down there at the end of the hill. Everybody sure slowed down for that because they thought it was a ticket machine taking your picture. Then they caught on to it and they just speeded right up. If you didn't think there was a problem on Spanish Main, why'd you get the radar wagon? Let's cover that another time. 16 years, what has the city of Spanish Fort done about the speeding on Spanish Main? They put up 2 stop signs at Ranger and Spanish Main intersection. That's it, 2 stop signs. Everybody's running all of the stop signs when there's not a patrol vehicle in the area, when there's not a radar officer at the bottom of the hill. Everybody's flashing their lights at them. If you want a death wish, walk on Spanish Main at night. People are doing 60, blowing through the stop signs because they don't see the headlights in the area coming up on the stop, so they don't even bother to stop. But Spanish Fort refuses to acknowledge that there's a speeding problem on Spanish Main and refuses to do anything about it. Back in December, the city of Spanish Fort requested the state, ALDOT, to widen 225. That just really set me back because you want to widen 225 because of the bottleneck at 225 and 31. So what are you going to do? Common sense is going to say, gee, I don't want to get into that bottleneck down there. Why don't I just cut through Spanish Fort Estates on my way to work or on my way home? All this drive-through traffic that comes through Spanish Fort Estates. Why not? Just coast through the stop signs. Don't have to worry about the police, especially at rush hour, because they have bigger and better things. And I agree about serious traffic problems up on the main roads, not in residential areas. Spanish Main is a residential street. It is a residential street. The speed limit is 25. Me and about 10 other people are the only ones that do 25. But yet the city fails to address this issue. I wish I lived off 225. I wish I lived off a nice little residential area and had a cul-de-sac at the end of my street where I don't have to worry about drive-through traffic. But I don't. I live on Spanish Main. And everybody that goes down 225 and hits that bottleneck down there, I wonder how many cut through Spanish Main to get to Mobile to go to work. Good question. I don't know who put the rubber hoses out across Spanish Main. I don't know if that was state or the city to count the cars. Anybody cancer?
State.
State? Yeah, well, at least somebody's trying to figure it out. Ms. Bradner, by the way, is the only lady up here, or the only person I've ever heard vote no. Only one. All the rest of you vote yes. Any subject. Every now and then she'll come up and vote no. When she sees a wrong, she votes no. Never heard a no from anybody else up here. God bless her for that. She is in fear for her safety when she edges her lawn. She has stated that fact. I've been clipped by side view mirrors twice while I'm edging my lawn. I put traffic cones out, not out in the middle of the street, just a foot over, just so the cars won't pass each other while I'm edging my lawn. What do? They run over the cones. And the city of Spanish Fort does nothing about the speeding on Spanish Main. Let's see. As you can tell, I'm very, very concerned about this, but somebody's bullheaded, stubborn agenda that refuses to address the issue that there is a speeding problem on Spanish Main. I came up here probably in November of last year. I said, what about speed bumps? You made a joke out of it, Your Honor, saying, I don't know if you call them humps, bumps, or lumps. Well, I'm glad you did that, because I went home that night and I looked up the definition of speed bumps. They're called silent policemen. Silent policemen. You only have to hire them once. You don't have to pay them sick leave. You don't have to pay them retirement. You don't have to pay them medical. But they do their job 24/7. They control the speed of the traffic. Silent policemen. The Sacred Cow of Baldwin County has silent policemen. Fairhope has silent policemen, believe it or not, in their residential neighborhoods. Mobile's got them all over, as we all know. And if you come up with that old story about it impeding emergency vehicles, well, you better find out who the manufacturer is of Spanish Fort vehicles that's going to tear them up, and find out who's building the ones in Fairhope and in Mobile. I also brought up this issue of sidewalks. If you don't give us silent policemen, at least give us sidewalks. I got a laughed-in face from Your Honor saying Spanish Fort Estates will never have sidewalks. That is a statement that you said to me. Now, with all the money being spent here on pickleball courts, waterfront property on 225, waterfront property on 31, antique cannons that we sent off to Florida to get rejuvenated. I can't think of the better word right now because I'm a little upset. Why didn't we have it refurbished here in Alabama and keep the money in Alabama instead of sending it to Florida? And I haven't seen the cannon, but we spend this money on the cannons, on waterfront property, on pickleball parks, but we don't spend the money on the safety for the citizens of Spanish Main and Spanish Fort Estates. All that money spent on all those other items, at least put a sidewalk on Spanish Main where the people can have a way to get out of the way of the speeding vehicles if you refuse to put silent policemen on Spanish Main. I really didn't want to bring this up, but at the end of this meeting, two things are going to happen. Two things are definitely going to happen if nothing's done about the speeding on Spanish Main. It's not when, it's if someone becomes injured or someone, God help us, gets killed on Spanish Main because of excessive speeding and somebody's bullheaded agenda to keep speed bumps off Spanish Main. Two things are going to happen. After an appropriate time of mourning, which I hope that's not the case, or an appropriate time of hospitalization, which I hope that's not the case, but the odds are against you guys and ladies. They're against you. The odds are way in favor of this happening. I mean, how long do you think the dice are going to roll and you keep your head in the sand until you do something about the speeding on Spanish Main? Getting back to it, at the appropriate time, I will go to those people. I will go to that grieving family or that injured family, and I will tell them, I've been coming up here for 16 years. I've been coming up here since the City Hall was at Piggly Wiggly, or next to it. I've been through 2 mayors. I've been through 2 chief of police. And the only thing done on Spanish Main is 2 stop signs. It's pathetic. The other thing is, I hate to address, and I don't want to do it, but my patience have run out. You back me up against the wall, I have no options. And I don't want to do this, but I don't want to bring any more bad light through the news media onto the Spanish Fort due to the bad light that this present administration has gotten over the past. But in 45 days' time, if nothing's done, I'm going to go to Channel 5, 10, and 15 and invite them to my carport, as I did you, Your Honor, and let them see how there's not a traffic issue on Spanish Main between 3:30 and 5:30 in the afternoon, when most people call it the Spanish Main 500. And if you want to ask anybody about the traffic on Spanish Main, why don't you go to the postal worker? Why don't you go to the FedEx driver? Why don't you go to the garbage collection people? They just shake their head and smile and give me a reserved salute. Yeah, what are you going to do? Somebody's going to get killed, somebody's going to get injured. It's up to the people of Spanish Fort City Council to do something about it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Any comments from the council?
I do have a comment, but my microphone's. Hello? Hello? Okay, maybe it is working. Hey, first I would, and this, I hope this is going to sound sincere, but I really do thank you for coming out and addressing us. I'm proud to serve on this council, and I would probably take issue with a few things you say, but I just want to say that I think we all do take this role very seriously. There's a lot of yes votes, not as many no votes, I'm sure. I've voted no before, but there is a lot of work that goes on in our work sessions prior to the public meetings, and so everyone's always invited to that as well. And you do see the negotiations that you don't see here necessarily. So just for a point of clarification there. But we always do like to get the public input. I crave that public input. I did not, when I was elected to this position, get any superpowers bestowed upon me magically. I really don't. I mean, I read, I try to study. I do get information prior to a vote. In fact, we do very regularly. We'll announce something, it'll be introduced at one meeting and then discussed and then not voted on until the next meeting. And so we do invite public participation at every meeting. So whether that's before or after, like Mr. Connor said, I really like it before because I know in a matter of moments I'm going to need to make a decision. And if there's strong public opposition to something, I need to hear that. Or if there's people in favor of it. I mean, we talk about the pickleball courts. It sounds like, we may have someone who's actually opposed to pickleball courts. That is the first time I've ever heard anybody not want pickleball courts. We've had overwhelming number of people request that, as a matter of fact, with petitions and so forth. And so, we're trying to do what is being requested by our citizens. I sympathize with you on the main point of your discussion tonight on the speeding. I too live in a neighborhood where there's a lot of speeding, and we are discussing speed bumps. I know it was a funny lumps, humps, and bumps. I will say, that is something we've all used, that phrase, because over the past it's been maybe a year or so, we have been discussing, ways to bring those to the city, speed humps, or what's properly called traffic calming devices. We've done quite a bit of research into what the surrounding municipalities do, whether it's Fairhope or Mobile, and we've put a lot of thought into it. It's going to cost some money, and so we're thinking about how to fund that and so forth. But we do take that seriously, and I do sympathize with you rather. I want to keep our people safe and keep our roads safe. So I love what our police do, and Chief Barber's doing a fine job. I would ask if, for suggestions on that or any topic, please bring us suggestions when you have an issue, and bring it before the council. Speak to us. Let us talk about it. I don't know that it's realistic to turn something around in any amount of time. It can be kind of arbitrary if you put a time limit on asking us for action. I'll just tell you that because there's there's just realities to the pace at which we can proceed. So, but I would want everyone to know that we take those things seriously. So I'd let someone else speak to sidewalks and any other discussion about speed bumps and so forth.
One thing that I would like to point out is that, yes, Chief Barber is an outstanding, very excellent person to represent Spanish Fort, but Spanish Fort is represented by the chief. So when you say he's done a wonderful job, the city of Spanish Fort has done nothing. The chief and his officers are an extension of the city, as they are a department of the city. So, I take issue with saying that the city has done nothing. They have done something, but it also comes down to the drivers in that area. You can't be there 100% all the time to get them. It takes some responsibility on behalf of the drivers as well. So, yeah, I just wanted to bring that point up, that he is an extension of the city. This city and this council has taken those steps to support him in doing that, but it does take participation by the public to drive responsibly.
Human nature will take its course. I have no problems with Chief Barber. He's doing a bang-up job.
Anyone else? I'll address a few things. And you're right, I did spend an evening with you watching cars speed up and down that road. And as opposed to 2 stop signs, we put a 3-way stop and two 3-way stops on that road to slow people down. Unfortunately, your house is right on a hill. It is really hard to slow them down. And I know, because having sat with you that afternoon, I saw it. I know it's real. Our chief, our guys do a great job, and chief, let's double up. I'm telling you, you're fixing to see a lot of presence down there, so I hope no one in this room is the first to get a ticket, because somebody's going to get some tickets real soon, I'm afraid. You brought up another number of other subjects. You talked about the can and why we sent it to Florida. Well, Florida State is the only place that refurbishes old cannons. It cost us $1,700 or $1,900 to get that done, and it was a 3-year process they have to go through. Nobody in the state of Alabama does that, so it was a very good spend. And we did get some grant money out of it too, come to think of it. The waterfront property you're talking about, Cypress Point on 225 was 100% funded by the state of Alabama. It did not come a single dime out of the city coffers. $8.5 million came from the state to acquire that property. That's a good buy. On the Causeway, the Hudson site, $2.5 million, 100% funded by the state of Alabama, not out of the city coffers. These are good projects. These are great for our city. That 144 acres on 225 was one of the best things that ever happened to our city for future growth. You talked about, I'm talking about joking about speed lumps, bumps, and humps. There's a difference between every one. So when I was speaking of one, I'm talking about 3 different kinds that this council has decided that in the next year's budget, we're gonna put a pool out there to start doing those things in our city to slow them down. Sidewalks are not something that the city builds in neighborhoods. It's up to the neighborhoods to build those sidewalks, not the city. Now, where we can get grant money to build sidewalks and use grant money to do it, we will do so. We've proven that on Jimmy Faulkner. We've proven that on Blakely Way, School Road, several other places in our city. So while I recognize your frustration, I do, and thank you for your patience, but we are making efforts, and you will see more efforts double down on Spanish Main in the next week. I can assure you that. Okay. Anybody else, Mary?
In regards to Spanish Main, yes, I do live on Spanish Main, and yes, my husband sometimes will have to stand out there while I cut the grass to make sure that I don't go out into the road when I'm trying to turn and go back towards the house. But my recommendation is, if we look at humps, bumps, and any of those type of calming devices, you've got to do them in the flats to slow them down before they go down either one of the hills. You can't put them on a hill. But if from my house at the top of the hill, they're hauling butt. They're flying. They will not you will not see a tail light as they crest that hill. They've still got their foot on the gas going down that hill. God forbid a garbage truck has to stop on that hill and pick up trash, or the mail lady. It's going to be bad news. I can respectfully disagree with the mayor on the sidewalks on Spanish Main, because it is basically a thoroughfare as opposed to being in a subdivision. But we've had that discussion, and we can continue to have that discussion. As to 225, the widening of 225 is from the waterfall entrance to Oak Ridge, am I right? And that's to add a turn lane in the middle. If you've tried to come out of Spanish Main and take a left and go north on 225, you're going to get killed. Same if you're coming from Blakely Way and try to turn left and go south on 225. So that's what the widening on 225 is. It's not to take it all the way down to 31. And once again, thank you for coming in. I see you back there with the hat on, and I don't put the name with the face, so thank you.
One quick addition to that. I think with the discussion of the speed bumps, it's probably important to say that we haven't decided anything about where we might put them, or if, or when, or where. There really does have to be discretion about the placement of those. As Mary said, you can't have them right at the top of the hill or at the middle of the hill, or whatever. There'll be a lot of consideration about where those might be allowed at that time, but it is something I just wanted to say that we have been discussing, because you're certainly not the only road where there's speeding problems, and it is a serious issue.
I appreciate your acknowledging the issue.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else for public participation?
My name is Laura Tapia. I live in 15 Fiesta Drive, and I am 31 years old. And I am here for the library. I love the library, but it's very hard to open the door. That's one thing, and it's very hard to go up on the second floor because there's no elevator. And I understand you're not breaking the law because you have the loft, but you're helping some people who can walk, and there's other people who fortunately cannot look over the loft. So I just wanted to know, how would you like to fix that for people who can't functionally do the other half of the city?
Thank you, first of all, for bringing it forward. Since your conversation at the last meeting, we've had several conversations with, in parties to help move that project forward. We've spoke with the architect engineer of this facility since then. We knew we had an elevator shaft put in when we built this building. We're gonna have an elevator company come out and give us an estimate of what it would take to get an elevator in place to fix that issue. Okay. The tension on the doors, we've got a tool that we're gonna get to measure the tension on the doors going into the library. We have the automatic doors up front. Didn't recognize there was a problem until you brought it to our attention, and thank you for doing so. Does that answer your questions?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Anyone else?
My name's Cheryl Wise Krebs, and I spoke last time too. And I want to thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I want to thank all of y'all for allowing me to speak. You pretty much just answered all my questions. I was going to tell you the background that I have working with disabled people and doing modifications and accommodations for them and accessibilities. And I'm very happy to hear that y'all are talking about it. I knew, or I had been told there was a shaft for the elevator. And I guess I'm wondering if it's not on the budget for this year, are we going to have to wait? And when does the budget get set again? Is it yearly? Is it January? Is it?
Our fiscal year runs through the end of September, so it's October.
Oh, okay,
running through the
okay.
end
I
of
was
September.
wondering.
We'll look at the cost and see what it's gonna cost us
Right.
and see what we can do.
Then I was going to ask, and I don't know if this is a place to do it, but if there could be an amendment to the budget to go ahead and do that, if you find out. There was one other thing I wanted to ask about the pickleball. I found out, or I was told again, that the changes and improvements to Spirit Park was a grant. Is that right?
That is not true, no ma'am.
Oh, well, that's not right.
No,
Oh,
ma'am.
okay, okay.
No, ma'am.
So I was wondering if maybe the pickleball was a grant, if the Spirit Park was a grant.
Where the confusion may be coming in, the pickleball location is on land that is gonna be donated to the city.
But you still have to pay to
Still
put
have
it
to build
in.
them, yes, ma'am.
Right, right. One thing I forgot to tell y'all last time is that I do have a disabled son. He works at Piggly Wiggly, and if y'all ever see him there, his name is Jerry. He wears a red shirt, and he is one of their best workers there. That's what they tell me anyway. But he works Friday, Saturday, Monday. He's at work right now. But y'all know, since y'all have talked about it, y'all know it's needed over there. The citizens of Spanish Fort really need that elevator to have accessibility to all areas of the library. And I appreciate you listening to me again. Y'all have a nice evening.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else? Okay, moving to announcements. The Spanish Fort Junior City Council will be hosting a roadway cleanup of Jimmy Faulkner Drive from Bromley Road to Highway 31 on this coming Saturday, March 11th, from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. Participants will meet at the Spanish Fort High School, and then will be assigned to groups for cleaning up a particular area of the right-of-way. Meet at the high school at 8 a.m. Individual civic, church groups, sports teams, businesses, and other groups are invited to participate. Here again, this is a project of our Junior City Council. Congressman Jerry Carr recently sent out a survey to the Spanish Fort residents asking for feedback about our postal service. Please check your email inbox and fill out the survey. If you don't have the survey, it is available here at City Hall. Please join us for free concert series here at the community centers. We'll celebrate spring season. It was a series of concerts. Sunday, March 16th, the Eastern Shore Choral Society will provide. March 26th, excuse me, will perform at the community center at 5 p.m. On Sunday, April 23rd, the Mobile Pops will be performing here at 6 o'clock. We'll also have an art show that is associated with that starts at 5. And then on Sunday, May 7th, the Mobile Big Band Society Youth Jazz Band will perform at the Community Center at 5 o'clock. So we hope to see you at all those events. There is no old business. Under new business, I'd like to announce that we have a Planning Commission appointment. Building and zoning official Eddie Tucker will be replaced, and he's smiling over there, and replaced it with our environmentalist, Cody Leday. Moving to the resolutions, I'd like to present Resolution 1306, 2023, a resolution adopting the Spanish Fort Police Department Policy Manual. Mr. Connor?
Mayor, the police department has been working diligently to create and revise the Spanish Fort Police Department Policy Manual. This is part of their efforts to receive accreditation from the Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement Agencies, which is CALEA. The City Council likewise has now reviewed those policies and procedures, and in accordance with the personnel manual, this will be a resolution to approve that police policy and procedural manual. Because of it contains information that could and does involve security and safety of persons and officers and procedures that is not available for public participation or review.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. Any discussion from the council? I would tell you this policy is 600 pages long, and it took us a lot of hours and a lot of meetings to accomplish this and bring it to the level we wanted to bring it to. Any further discussion? I have a motion to adopt.
Make a motion to adopt Resolution 1306-2023.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Kurt Smith? Yes. Gustafson?
Yes.
Perry?
Yes.
J.R. Smith?
Yes.
Brabner? Mayor?
Yes, the resolution is adopted. I'd like to present Resolution 1309, 2023, a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a contract for assistance for grant application preparation between the City of Spanish Fort, Alabama, and JMCM Consulting, LLC. Mr. Connor?
Mayor, the Spanish Fort Fire Department has had a relationship with JMCM Consulting for some time, and this is a proposed agreement with JMC Consulting for the preparation of an application for a grant for the staffing of adequate fire and emergency response grant program, the SAFER program. A copy of that proposal is attached as Exhibit 1, subject to any changes deemed necessary by the mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. Any discussion from the council? Do I have a motion?
I move that we approve Resolution 1309, 20-23.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Kurt Smith? Yes. Gustafson?
Yes.
Perry?
Yes.
J.R. Smith?
Yes.
Brabner? Mayor?
Yes, the resolution is adopted. I'd like to present Resolution 1310, 2023, a resolution authorizing the mayor of the City of Spanish Fort, Alabama to make a grant application for the Federal Emergency Management Agency staffing for adequate fire and emergency response grant. Mr. Connor.
This is a companion resolution with the previous resolution. The previous resolution authorizes JCMC to prepare the application, and this resolution authorizes the mayor and staff to execute any and all documents deemed necessary to apply for the grant funding.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. Any discussion from the council? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Kurt Smith? Yes. Gustafson?
Yes.
Perry?
Yes.
J.R. Smith?
Yes.
Brabner? Mayor?
Yes, the resolution is adopted. I'd like to present Resolution 1311, 2023, a resolution appointing an underwriter to assist in the issuance of the City of Spanish Fort General Obligation Warrants, Series 2023. Mr. Connor?
Mayor, the City Council has been working for some time and discussing proposed public improvement projects for the city, which include the construction of a new fire station number 1, proposed dog park, renovation and expansions at Spirit Park and Integrity Park, which are presently underway. Additions to renovations at the field house, pickleball courts, storage buildings and facilities for the fire department, and also the master plan for real property at Cypress Point, and the design and construction of Fire Station number 4, which would be on property previously purchased by the city up on Jimmy Faulkner Boulevard. The city has requested or has discussed borrowing funds to pay for those public improvements, and the city sent out a request for proposal to underwriters and to provide request proposal regarding the funding and issuance of those bonds. The city received several responses to requests for proposal. The recommendation coming from the mayor and staff is that Piper Sandler and Company be selected as underwriter to assist with the issuance of those general obligation warrants, and then the firm of Hand Arundel Harrison Sale will act as bond counsel related to the issuance of those bonds. And just for the record, Mayor, this does not approve the bonds or authorize the issuance of the bonds. Those will be all subject to further discussion and by the council. This merely retains the services of the underwriter. Those decisions about whether or not to issue or proceed will come later.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. Discussion from the council? I have one correction. You mentioned field house. There is no field house in this bond issue. And I thought I'd bring that to the attention before that blew up. You know, we're very fortunate in Spanish Fort. We have very little long-term debt. We have what we have here at the community center, a 15-year house note, of which we're 8 years into it, so we're on the downside of that. Feel good about that. The only other long-term debt is some debt we have at the Eastern Shore Center for, while it's not the original bond issue, it does have to do with the original building of the complex. And we have about a year left on that, so we will be dismissing those debts off within the next year or so. Any other discussion from the council? Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve Resolution 1311, 2023.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Kurt Smith,
Yes.
Gustafson,
Yes.
Perry,
Yes.
J.R. Smith,
Yes.
Brabner, Mayor.
Yes, the resolution is adopted. 1313, 2023, a resolution amending the personnel manual of the city of Spanish Fort, Alabama. Mr. Connor?
Mayor, this is a proposed amendment to the personnel manual to incorporate by reference Alabama Code Section 11-47-24, which authorizes the city to obtain liability insurance for employees who are acting in the line and scope of their employment and related to liability that arises. Also authorizes the defense and indemnity of those employees sued in the performance of their official duties, subject to the limitations set forth in that code section, and also authorizes the purchase of insurance subject to any terms or conditions deemed necessary by the city as set forth in the insurance policies. And this is a further compliance step with the accreditation that we referred to earlier regarding CALEA.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. Any discussion from the council? Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve resolution number 1313-2023.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Kurt Smith,
Yes.
Gustafson,
Yes.
Perry,
Yes.
J.R. Smith,
Yes.
Brabner, Mayor.
Yes, the resolution is adopted. I'd like to introduce Resolution 1320, 2023, a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a contract for services between the city of Spanish Fort and Sunset Contracting, Inc. Mr. Connor?
Mayor, this is proposed resolution is to authorize the mayor to execute a contract for services between the city and Sunset Contracting, Inc. to prepare asphalt cracks at Pirates Lane and Spanish Main, as well as asphalt mill overlay at Spanish Main and Bull Run, including mobilization, milling, traffic control, and asphalt patching. A copy of the proposal is attached as Exhibit 1, subject to any changes deemed necessary by the mayor. The amount for those are $6,750 for the Pirates Lane and Spanish Main improvements, as well as $9,000 for the additional work on Spanish Main and Bull Run.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. Discussion from the council?
per our conversation in work session, I guess I think it might be appropriate to suspend the rules and move on this one tonight instead of waiting, so that we could pair it up with the work to be done in the next resolution that follows it.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Any further discussion from the council? Do I have a motion to suspend the rules for immediate consideration?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Kurt Smith,
Yes.
Gustafson,
Yes.
Perry.
Yes.
J.R. Smith.
Yes.
Brabner. Mayor.
Yes. Do I have a motion to adopt?
I move to adopt resolution 1320-2023.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Kurt
Yep.
Smith,
Yes.
Gustafson,
Yes.
Perry.
Yes.
J.R. Smith.
Yes.
Brabner.
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, the resolution is adopted. I'd like to introduce Resolution 2023, a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a contract for services between the city of Spanish Fort, Alabama, and Sunset Contracting, Inc. Mr. Connor.
Mayor, this proposed resolution and agreement would authorize Sunset Contracting to perform repairs to the valley gutter on Bull Run, including removal and replacing of the gutter, traffic control, and asphalt patching. A copy of the proposal is attached as Exhibit 1, subject to any changes deemed necessary by the mayor, and the amount of that contract is $6,350.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. Any discussion from the council? Going hand in hand with the resolution prior to, I would like to ask for a motion to suspend the rules for immediate consideration.
Motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Kurt Smith,
Yes.
Gustafson,
Yes.
Perry.
Yes.
J.R. Smith.
Yes.
Brabner. Mayor.
Yes. Do I have a motion to adopt?
Motion to adopt resolution 1321-2023.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Kurt Smith,
Yes.
Gustafson,
Yes.
Perry.
Yes.
J.R. Smith.
Yes.
Brabner.
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, the resolution is adopted. I'd like to introduce Resolution 1322-2023, a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute a contract for services between the city of Spanish Fort, Alabama, and Threat Advice. Mr. Connor?
Mayor, this is a proposed agreement with Threat Advice for the purposes of assisting in risk management of cybersecurity issues related to the city's computer systems and relationships with other entities or individuals utilizing those services, including but not limited to provision for phishing tests, policies and procedures, cyber insurance, cyber training, and education. A copy of the proposed agreement is attached as Exhibit A. It is for a 3-year term, is my understanding, in the amount of $1,920 per year with a $250 one-time startup. The copy of the proposed agreement is attached, subject to any changes approved by the mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. Discussion from the council? Do I have a motion to suspend the rules for immediate consideration?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Kurt Smith,
Yes.
Gustafson,
Yes.
Perry.
Yes.
J.R. Smith.
Yes.
Brabner. Mayor.
Yes. Do I have
Who was the second on that, please? Okay, that's what I thought.
do I have a motion to adopt?
I will make a motion to adopt 1322-2023.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Kurt Smith,
Yes.
Gustafson,
Yes.
Perry.
Yes.
J.R. Smith.
Yes.
Brabner. Mayor.
Yes, the resolution is adopted. Any other business coming before the council tonight? Do I have a motion to adjourn? before they can start the water board meeting, I'm gonna need everybody to go out of the building or out of this room so they can register you coming in. So if you're here for the water board meeting, please step out in the lobby area. The water board employees will register you in for the meeting.